Premier League season officially kicks off this Friday, and we hope you are as excited as we are. And as is tradition on the Lost in Possession podcast, we are giving our full Premier League table predictions, every single position, right down from 20th to first. We're going to do 3 episodes this week. We're all going to go through ours individually. So make sure you do consider subscribing, turn notifications on, and make sure you are tuned for every single episode. Today, we're going to kick things off with Reece. Please share your screen and let's get straight into it.
Yep. Thank you, Jordan. So we're jumping straight in here in what I think is probably going to be one of the most competitive Premier Leagues we've ever had. And this is why this was probably the hardest table I've ever had to predict. Teams have invested well, in my opinion. I think pretty much all teams have, and even teams that have been a bit quieter have still got very solid squads. So with that in mind, I had to make a judgment. And I understand it might not make me popular with everybody, but unfortunately, them's the breaks, as they say. So we'll start with the relegation sides. Now, I'm going to start with Burnley in last place. And again, I apologise to all Burnley fans because I just don't know. Like I said, it was so hard to predict. I think Burnley were fantastic defensively last season, but you could be great defensively in the league, but you still need to score goals. Do I think they can do it? Yes, but I think it might be a little bit tough for them. So I've gone with that in mind. And joining them in relegation, unfortunately, I'm going to have to go with Leeds. I've gone with Leeds in 19th, just due to the fact of, again, their recruitment has been great. I think they lost some silly games last season and almost gave it away. And I think that's not going to cut it in the Premier League. They might be at risk of doing that again. So that's why I've gone with Leeds. I hope, realistically, I hope I'm wrong with every prediction I make. I hope I am. But that's just how I see it. And join him in the relegation battle. Again, it pains me to say it. It's the Mackham Sunderland. Now, you both know how much I've bigged up Sunderland. Their recruitment is fantastic. Their recruitment has been spot on. I love where they've strengthened their team. I just think mentality wise, they're a bit short. I don't see, other than Shaka, who's going to grab the game by the scruff of the neck and get them out of these situations. And yes, they won the playoffs, but I thought they were poor leading up to the playoffs, and I think they lose silly games. And I hope for the sake of the Premier League, the 3 teams that come up do not come back down, because that is a very damning indictment of the Premier League. But I also think the 17 teams above them have also just got the recruitment right, the finances, the stronger finances, and can probably hold firm where they need to. That's my problem. Sunderland are going to have to beat the teams around them, and that might even be an Achilles heel for them next season.
To be honest,
Ooh.
I think you're probably right there, Reece. Like the 3 teams that come up have gone down now for a few seasons. It's not good for the Premier League, but it's not a bad prediction. I don't think anyone will really massively argue the fact. Obviously, some of their own fans will go, "No, we can stay up," but if you're betting money against it, you probably think, yeah, they're more likely to go down and stay up.
Yeah, it's a shame. It is a shame because we're saying the Premier League's the most exciting in the world, biggest league, and it's like we'll see how mine and Jamie's predictions pan out. But we're saying we're in this vortex where the teams that come up potentially going down again, and something has to change. And maybe that's a debate for another day. But it's almost sad to see this as a prediction, even though I'm sure the bookies would probably agree. So yeah, sad to see, but let's move up the table.
Yeah, I feel awful for doing that, and I hope I'm wrong. I think of the 3 teams, Sunderland are the team that will pack more of a surprise. Regis Labrie did it with Lorient, and I think he can do it. However, I just think at the moment the other teams are just a little bit stronger. So let's go on to 17th. The team I think who are just going to survive is Brentford. I've probably put Brentford in the bottom 3 for the last couple of years now. I think that's very harsh. Again, their recruitment has been great, but I think Keith Andrews is going to be getting his feet wet this season. What's going to be key for Brentford is their set pieces. I see them doing very well with their set pieces next season, and I think that'll be critical to keeping in the league. That's just is what it is. Joining them just above them are their West London neighbours, Fulham. Why have I gone with that? Because Fulham have been a solid team for a few years now. They've not made much in the transfer department, not really lost anyone, not really signed anybody, which I think would frustrate Marco Silva. Could that mean he might depart throughout the season? Possibly, but they're a solid team. Simple as that. They're a solid team. As long as they stay in the league and stay consistent, they'll be just fine. I don't think they're going to be anywhere near that bottom three unless they get off to a very rocky start. That's how I see it personally. I think they might challenge in the cups instead. Just above them, Bournemouth. Bournemouth were a surprise package last season. I think that might tail off a bit now, as we saw towards the end of the season. Lost a couple of key players. I don't think that's going to harm them that much. But I think for them just staying in the league and stabilising and building the next steady team will be key. Keeping hold of Iriola has been important to that. Shouldn't go against him even if they finish 15th next season. I don't think they're going to be in any danger. Again, they need to be careful of maybe losing some heavy games. They put a lot of big teams to the sword last season. Can they keep that up? They should do, but they need to focus on beating the teams around them. And just above Bournemouth, I'm going to put West Ham. Simple as that. Don't need to say much more. No disrespect to West Ham, but just how it is. And then top in the 13th, I'm going with Wolverhampton Wanderers. I think they've made some very shrewd signings, some great players. Not really lost anyone this season other than Cunha, but they've still got some good players in the likes of Larson. I don't think they'll be in any danger this season with Pereira in charge. What do we think of these?
Bournemouth is the one
Fulham,
where it is sort of like they're very good, but they've lost so many players. So to see them dropping down the league wouldn't surprise me. Wolves, they've also lost Eight Nori. I don't like. I think they'll be around this pack. So 13th isn't obviously a bad choice. I just think they'll be around this pack, probably a bit lower in my opinion, but it's still not an awful shout being 13th.
yeah, Fulham's a bit of a weird one because I really rate Marco Silva and I think they were excellent last season, but the lack of business, I mean, is crazy. One signing, a few have left due to releases, but I don't know, it's a weird one. I just feel like they should have invested in trying to be like, yeah, look, we're going to go up in the league, we're going to get Europe, and yeah, I think Fulham I think this is probably fair, but yeah, a bit of a weird one for Fulham, I think.
Hmm. Well, I will say this before I move on to the next load is I think from 10th downwards is make or break for every single team in the league. I say that because I think they're all as good as each other and all as capable of beating the big boys. It's going to be playing these teams here. One for the top nine, they're going to have to beat these teams, but the top from 10th down all need to get results against each other. That's what I think is so important. Is gonna basically define how this lot are going to end up. That to me is going to be critical. It doesn't matter if Bournemouth beat Arsenal twice next season. It's beating these teams around them that's going to stop them, from sliding down. That's my opinion of that, and that's why I think this is so hard to predict. So moving on, let's move to 12th, and we're going from Wolves across the Midlands, Nottingham Forest. Just slid off towards the end of the season. He's putting himself under pressure. They've got a nice European competition as well. Maintaining that is going to be quite tough. So I think there's going to be a bit of solidity there. Above them is obviously mid-table legends Crystal Palace. Amazing season, FA Cup, Community Shield. Now in the Conference League, haven't really got the squad depth to manage on all fronts there, so I think they might suffer a little bit there. But again, I don't think they're going to care after the season they've had. Above them is their rivals Brighton. Again, keeping steady. Lost Pedro. No massive amounts of notable incomings. As long as they stay steady is what's important. And then above them, I'm going Everton. I think Everton are going to get off to a good start. I think they're going to build quite well, threaten for the top seven, eight, and maybe slowly fade off towards the end. I'm going to go Everton. I expect more from them. May take a while to adjust their new stadium, but there we go. Time for the top eight, which is the most boring part of the league, and it's as followed: Newcastle. Who's going to finish above Newcastle? Aston Villa. I'm going for these two here. I think they'll be steadier again. I also think they might, with their European competitions, might just struggle on, which any of these teams here can take advantage of. After Aston Villa, we're into sixth place. I'm going for Arsenal. I picked us to finish third last season. We were in danger of doing that. Not been impressed by their pre-season. Um, I don't think Gyökeres is necessarily the answer. I hope he proves me wrong. I just think the teams above them are probably, it may sound silly to say, are probably going to be a little bit better shape. The pressure on Arteta is huge. Tough start for him. Loses a couple of games early on. They're going to be on his back. And as we've seen, a toxic atmosphere at the Emirates does a lot of damage. So I'm going for Arsenal sixth. I don't see them doing any better, to be honest. But before you jump at me, I'm going to give you who I've got in fifth. And I've gone for Tottenham, even though you can't really see the badge there. The reason I've gone for Tottenham, their squad was not the problem last season. It was the injuries and the tactics, more of the tactics. Thomas Frank is a better tactician than Ange. He might not have the personality that Ange has, but he's a calm head. And what he did at Brentford, he had that team playing regardless of who it was. Even if they had nothing to play for, he made sure Brentford turned up. That's what Spurs need. And I think he's going to deliver that with Spurs. And I think you get those teams that struggle around the season before tend to jump up. And I think Spurs are just that. Maybe another signing might help them a little bit. But I think they're well placed to finish fifth this season.
Yeah, that's. I think that writes our headlines and thumbnails for us. That one, Spurs above Arsenal, Arsenal in sixth. I think it's an outrageous prediction. I'll be honest. Arsenal have been knocking on the door for years. They need a striker who's capable of putting the ball in the back of the net. They've got that. I think if you're sick or you're lingering, Arteta has to get sacked, which Reece, I know you'll be happy about. But I just can't fathom a scenario where Arsenal are sixth. I hope it happens because the fan base meltdown would be absolutely iconic. But not just Arsenal sixth, but Spurs above them. Given what we saw from Spurs last season, the trophy was papering over cracks. Let's be honest, they were an absolute disgrace. A lot has changed, but I can't see a world where Spurs finish above Arsenal this season.
Yeah, just to jump on the sort of Arsenal one is I don't see there being. I don't see sort of out the clubs there. It's sort of United and Spurs. They were terrible last season. United have signed a few more players. I don't think they're that much better than what they were last season. Spurs is a bit of the unknown with Frank now in, and the signings they've made. I wouldn't be jumping for joy over the signings. Sort of like kudos wasn't actually that great at West Ham last season. So it's yeah. I know this might just add to your Arteta outrage, but Arsenal haven't got worse. They've got Zubamendi instead of Partey, which I think is roughly the same. You've got Norgard coming in for Jorginho. That's sort of like a meh. It's sort of like he's a backup, and I think that's fine. Madueke, I don't agree with the signing. I don't think he's consistent enough. Doesn't make you weaker, and then Gyökeres up front is a massive improvement to your striker. So the fact you think they're going to drop down 4 places is a surprise. And when I do my prediction, and probably Jordan's as well, I don't think we'll have them as low as sixth. But yeah,
Well,
that's your prediction. We might be right. So
the reality is they had their best chance to win the league last season and they couldn't have made it worse for themselves, as far as I'm concerned. So poor in pre-season. Gyökeres, who doesn't score headers, scored a header at the weekend. So that goes to show where we're going with this. I just don't see it. They are not going to beat Man United on the first game of the season. They are in severe trouble from losing 2 out of their first 3 games. Early on, it doesn't matter. It's how you finish. The pressure is on and the fan base has already turned from what we've seen. So let's move on to fourth, and that is the aforementioned Man United. I know I put them fourth last season, and that was an absolutely horrendous pick, but I rate Ruben Almiron. I rate him a lot. I rated him highly last season. I said I still think he'll win a trophy before Arteta does, and I maintain that argument. Yes, we hear the same old stuff from players every single year, but there does seem to be something different this year. He seems to have let a couple of players go. There seems to be a bit more positivity, and he's gone for the right signings in Cunha and Mbuemo and Sesko, who is a great, great striker. Those three are going to be lethal, yes, and I think he'll steady things up. They ended the season on a high note, beating Aston Villa. They've shown they've got it in their locker. I think they'll finish fourth, and I think as well they'll finish fourth quite nicely because I think the other two here or the other four here might make silly mistakes along the way. Now, going into third, I'm going for the current champions, Liverpool. I maintain this argument with you two over the group chat. I still think they'll finish third. I put Liverpool second last season. I rate Slot highly. The signings he's made are good, but we saw against Palace, they still in the Community Shield, they can still slip up. And I just think that, there wasn't that pressure on them last season. No disrespect, they deserve the league, but the teams around them have got better and have evolved. And this is where my second pick comes in. Chelsea. We might not look into pre-season. I was impressed. They blew PSG out of the water. None of the other English clubs could beat PSG, could they? So what's not to think Chelsea can go with it this season? They've added more strength in depth. They've added another team bus. They have got plenty to go with. And I think they've got a lot of quality players. It's keeping those players happy and giving them the game time that's important. But I can't knock it. I'm going to go for Chelsea for second. And champions, if it lets me put it up there, I'm going for Man City to take their throne back. Jamie might disagree. Jordan, you might disagree. But I think they might come back with a bit of a vengeance this year because they really have a point to prove after last season. And I think they're going to get themselves together and they're going to go for it. I could be horribly wrong, but I've gone for something a little bit different to a lot of other people. You never know. I might turn out to be a football genius.
I hope you're right, Reece. Let's just end it there. Yeah, this is the Premier League table. City are champions again. I'll take that every sort of time. Just quickly on City from my point of view, is I think people are underrating them. I think that's maybe they won't win the league, but I think everyone's kind of writing them off already. I think a lot of people, from what I've seen already, have gone City are going to come fourth, and the title race is between Arsenal, Chelsea, Liverpool. That's what I'm seeing quite a lot online. And I think City have had a bad season, don't get me wrong. Last season we weren't very good. But to just write us off already, I think is a bit premature. Whether Reece is right, like I said, I'll take it now. But I think people shouldn't write City off as much as they are. That's the only sort of point I really have on it. And Chelsea, I think the only thing is consistency. If they can stay consistent, then they will be up there in this race. But that's, I think, the sort of red flag Chelsea have at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, my issue with the top four, again, look, it's very hard to call either way, and we'll get into that into other episodes as well. But for me, United, it's a big ask. It really is a big ask to get top four. Because again, you touch on consistency with Chelsea, but with United, there's been no consistency for the last decade. Amarim is still relatively new, and more importantly, their front three is three new signings. You know, Cunha and Mbuemo, Sesko. It's a massive, massive ask for Man United to bring in three. I know two of them are prem proven, if you like, but to go, we've got a whole new front three, and we're just going to hit the ground running and be fourth. I just cannot see it. I cannot see United being above Arsenal because Arsenal, yes, they've added, but they've proven a bit more consistency at the very least, is what I would say. So yeah, I strongly disagree probably with the United one, but other than that, it's the top three or four is bloody hard to call this year. It really is. Any more comments? Anything to add to that?
I think if I'm going to give a dark horse, I've put Everton in here. I'm not saying top four for Everton, but I also think Wolves. I've been impressed with Wolves and their coach. and I think they're capable of finishing higher if they take advantage of some sloppiness from the other teams around them. I don't think Cunha's a bigger loss than what people think. That's not disrespect to Cunha, but I think they've got players and different tactical style that will suit them. And I do think the three bottom teams have done well with recruitment. It's so hard to predict. It's a matter of beat these teams around you and you'll be just fine. That's how I see it. These are the key games. You know, these are going to be the key games. All that section here, that's massive. And all these teams are able, sorry, to beat each other.
All right. Well, there you have it. That is episode 1 wrapped up. As I said, we're going to be doing each of, 3 versions of this. Each one of us will have our own predictions. So make sure you subscribe, you like, and stay tuned. They're all going to be released this week. But as always, let us know your thoughts on Reece's predictions in the comments. As always, like, comment, and subscribe. You know the drill.